Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eat to Treat. I'm Dr. Amaris Williams, and I have a PhD in nutrition, and I'm an avid foodie, and I cook. I do live cook along cooking demonstrations every first and third Saturday. The first Saturday is diabetes friendly recipes, and the third Saturday today is a hypertension friendly recipe. They're both at 3 p.m. and I post or 3 p.m. Eastern, and I post the ingredients ahead of time on eat-to-treat.org. So you can join me in the kitchen for a great time making a delicious meal. So today we're making shrimp and grits, one of my favorite recipes. This whole month of February, we've been doing breakfast recipes, and this one I think is probably the best one. So you guys picked a great one to join. So let's get started. Okay, the first step is to get your liquid, either beer or wine, or I'm using this beer here, and open it. If you're using chicken stock, you can open that too, but I wouldn't drink it. If you're using beer or wine, go on ahead and take a sip. Then we're going to measure out our grits. If you're making 4 servings, then you're like I'm making, then you need a cup of grits. So a quarter cup of grits per person that you're trying to serve. The grits don't keep well, so I wouldn't make more than you need ahead of time. This is not something you can make for the week and have. So I'm gonna make 1 cup of grits, and I'm just going to put it directly in my dry pan here. And then you want 4 cups of liquid, or 4 times the amount of grits you put in there. That's how much liquid you want. I'm doing 7 times water. I mean, not 7 times. I'm doing 3.5 parts water to half a part cream. So what that looks like is 3.5 cups of water with half a cup of cream for my 1 cup of grits. So I'm just going to pour into 3.5 cups of this water. And then the rest of the 4 cups that I need for my cup of grits, I'm going to put cream in. And this will give you a nice flavor of, it almost tastes like you put butter in it without putting butter in it. So that's why I'm using cream here. And then the last ingredient for the grits is salt. And you want to put the salt in at the beginning, not at the end. I normally advocate for putting salt in at the end, but if you do that, you'll end up using more salt, especially when it comes to grains. It's better to put the salt in at the beginning. So for 4 cups of grits, I'm going to put about 3/4 teaspoon of salt in. I do a hefty pinch of salt per serving, and that kind of comes out to 3/4 teaspoon for 4 servings. So a hefty pinch is not quite 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to turn it on high. Once it starts boiling, we're going to turn it down to low. So I'm turning mine on 9 out of 10. And I'm going to give this a introductory stir to make sure everything is well and incorporated in there, and the salt starts to dissolve into the water and cream. Oh, I used the wrong spoon. Oh well. And then we're ready to go. So let's start making the gravy. For the gravy, we're going to cut up some onions, cut up some bell pepper, cook those down, add some garlic, cook that down, Then we're going to add flour, which will start to form a roux in the pan. Once we cook that a little bit, we'll add the liquid, then we'll add the shrimp. So, first the onion. I'm going to cut my onion in half so it doesn't roll around on me. And then I'm just going to slice it because it doesn't have to be very small for this. Cut off the stem. And with my fingers curled under so I don't cut them off, I'm just going to slice the onion. I'm already making a mess, which is a theme. This around. All right, here's the root. And I'm going to go ahead and, if you've turned your back, before I get to that, if you've turned your back on your grits, keep in mind that because there's cream in there, they will foam up. So once it's boiling, immediately turn it down to low. You got to keep an eye on it. Otherwise, you'll look over and there's cream and foam all over your stove. So just fair warning on that. For the gravy, let's turn our pot on. I'm going to turn it on medium, so this is 5 out of 10 right now. And I'm going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil. And then I'm going to put my onion in. And then I'll slice up the other half of the onion. Same way, fingers curled under. Okay. Put that in with the rest. Okay, the next step, like I said, is to cut up a bell pepper. You can use any colored bell pepper you like. I've got a green one and a red one here. The red has a sharper flavor, in my opinion, but they both taste like bell pepper, so go for whichever one you think is prettiest, or whichever one you like the flavor of better. The way I cut bell peppers, and that a lot of chefs cut bell peppers, is to just put your knife. So if you think of the bell pepper as a box where the seeds are in the middle and all the stuff that you want is the cardboard around the edges, we're going to cut the cardboard around the edges off. So I'm going to cut down here like this, then turn it, cut like that, turn it, cut like that, and keep doing that until I've cut all the sides of the bell pepper off, leaving the seeds in the middle. And I don't want the seeds in my food, so I'm just gonna keep turning it and cutting a side off the bell pepper. Like that. And so now I've got the middle, which is the seeds, and they're not all over my cutting board. And I'm just gonna throw that in the garbage. Stirring my onions now. I don't want to let them burn too much. My grits are starting to boil, so I'm going to turn them down now. Your stove may not be as quick as mine, so your mileage may vary. But I've turned it down to 2.5 out of 10, and we'll see if that's low enough. I may have to turn it down even more than that. You want it to simmer. You don't want it to boil vigorously, because if it boils vigorously, it will boil over. All right. I'm going to do half a red and half a green bell pepper because I want the colors in there. So I'm going to show you again, how do you cut a bell pepper. You just cut down the sides like cutting the cardboard off of a box. keeping your fingers out of your way of the knife, as you can imagine. And then you've got the middle with the seeds, and you throw that out. All right, so I'm only going to use half of each bell pepper. Oh, and don't forget about your beer. You can have another sip of that. Just keep a cup of beer or wine left over. All right. So the bell pepper, I'm just going to slice like I slice the onion. Keeping my fingers curled under. And as that's ready, I'm going to add it to the pan with a stir. And every so often, stir your grits as well. If you're cooking grits with a top on them, a lot of times they say don't stir them, but I find for stone ground grits, it's best to cook without a top and to stir every so often so that the bottom doesn't burn. Because the grits on the bottom will burn. It kind of gives a toasty flavor to the whole pot of grits if you burn the bottom grits. I know this from experience, obviously, because I have burned my share of grits. But I think it tastes better without burning the grits. So let's not do that. Continuing to cut the bell pepper here, slicing that up. If you guys have a free hand and a free minute, put in the chat what extra vegetables do you think would be good in this dish? I think adding a little bit of Swiss chard or dinosaur kale would be a good idea. It would increase your vegetable consumption for the day, give you a little bit of fiber. It would also give flavor to the dish, especially the dinosaur kale. And because we're cooking this and we're making a gravy while we're cooking it, the dinosaur kale with its little nubby leaves will be good to hold the gravy and hold the flavor on the kale. So that's what I think would be good in here. But you guys can add whatever vegetables you think you like to this basic shrimp and grits recipe. The more vegetables you add, the less shrimp you have to buy, and shrimp can be expensive, and the healthier it will be for you. I just got back from Napa Valley, where I was attending a conference, a cooking conference, for people who do cooking demos or want to do cooking demos. And one of the people that came to speak to us was an endocrinologist, a gastroenterologist, and he said that we should be aiming to eat 30 fruits and vegetables, 30 plants a week, and that's the best for our gut health. So here we've got 2 plants in here. We've got corn in there, so that's 3 plants. We're going to add garlic. That's going to be our 4th plant. We had olive oil. I don't know if that really counts as eating a plant, though. But like I said, next is garlic. I'm using this garlic that was already peeled. And we're going to add 4 cloves of garlic chopped up to our peppers and onions. But I think 30 plants a week is achievable. I mean, we're going to get at least 5 in this one meal. And then, I mean, you can't count the same plants twice, so you have to get different plants in other meals. But 30 plants a week is definitely doable. And he said spices count. So if we were throwing some herbs in here, or like some cumin, I think cumin would be good in this recipe as well, then those would be extra plants, and those would count. One trick to cut garlic faster is to use the curve of the blade to rock the knife up and down and then put it through the garlic. You know, just, you can see what I'm doing. Just rock the knife up and down along the blade. Even if you're using a semi-flat blade like a Santoku, it still has enough curve where you can rock the knife and pass it through the garlic. All right. I'm gonna add the garlic to the pan. And I'll stir both my pan for the gravy and my pan for grits. So go ahead and stir that. Because we've added garlic, I'm going to keep stirring it pretty frequently because I don't want the garlic to burn. I've got a little bit of caramelization going on my onions, which is fine. That'll just add flavor. And I've got a little bit of caramelization on the bottom of my pan as well. That'll be deglazed when we add the wine or the beer. But the garlic burning is not something we want at all. Kind of like the grits. We don't want the grits to burn. So stir those relatively frequently. Starting to thicken on my end. Okay, the next step is to add a little bit of flour. I'm using whole wheat flour because there's not a lot of application for whole wheat flour, and if you bought it, you might as well use it. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of whole wheat flour. See how this goes here. Okay, that's plenty. Let me show you how much I added. I gave it a good coating there. And then we're going to stir this in, and it's going to dry out our pan. So if your pan is starting to get too dry like mine is, add some more oil, up to another tablespoon of oil, and that'll help form a roux. So oil plus flour equals roux, and that thickens whatever liquid you add next. So first we make the roux in the pan with the vegetables, and then we're going to deglaze all this flavor that's stuck to the bottom of the pan back into the solution by pouring in the beer or wine or stock. So we're going to let the roux cook a little bit because we don't want raw flour in our gravy. We want the flour to cook for a minute or so. All right. 1 cup of liquid, either beer, wine, or stock. So I'm going to pour 1 cup of this beer into the pan. And then scrape the bottom when you pour it in. That'll help deglaze the pan. And then as this comes up to temperature, it'll start to thicken. And that's what we want. That's what the roux does. Now, if you searched shrimp and grits recipes online, a lot of them call for sausage of some sort, usually andouille or chorizo or something like that. I didn't put sausage in mine because sausage has a lot of saturated fat, and it does add flavor, but it doesn't have any real nutritional value. So I decided to omit the sausage from my recipe. But if you crave that flavor, what you can do is add a little Worcestershire sauce. And you would add that now if you're using it. And that will give you a little umami that the sausage would have given you. And that'll be kind of a replacement for the sausage. Alternately, you could just put some sausage in there, but just know that you're reducing the health value of the meal, and it'll still taste good without the sausage, so don't worry about that. I'm going to turn down my pot now that it's simmering. I'm at a 4 out of 10 now, and now that the sauce is starting to thicken and it's hot and starting to simmer, I'm going to add the shrimp. The shrimp are already thawed. There's a little bit of liquid in there from the thawing process. I'm going to pour that off. Because I don't want to add too much liquid to my pan because I already added my beer. And now I'm just going to add the shrimp to the pan and cook it. Once the shrimp is cooked, we're done. What's that? Oh, that's ice. Once the shrimp is cooked, the gravy is done. Let me stir my grits. Don't forget to stir your grits. The grits should be done soon. I can feel the grits stuck to the bottom of my pan, so I'm gonna have some burnt grits on the bottom of my pan. I tried to avoid it, but I did it again. It'll be fine. The grits on top will be fine. So, the grits are almost done. I like mine a little thicker than this, but if you like runny grits, you can take your grits off when they're to your desired consistency. And I'm going to stir the shrimp into the gravy now. I turned the heat down because I didn't want the shrimp to get chewy. I want them to cook slowly. Okay. So while we're waiting, that's it as far as the cooking part. I mean, we're just gonna wait on the shrimp to get done and wait on the grits to thicken up, and they are popping all over the place now. I'm going to turn them down a little bit more. I'm at 2 out of 10 on my grits now. Hopefully that'll help. Got a little bit of beer left, so I'm gonna take a sip of that. All right, while we're waiting on that though, let me show you the nutrition facts for this. We've got a decent amount of saturated fat, which comes from the cream, but I find that the grits without the cream are not very good to eat. So we just sacrifice and eat the saturated fat, but have it be delicious. So that's number one, and have it be delicious. But the total fat is only 30% of what you want for the day, which is good for one meal. Low sodium, less than 500 milligrams per serving. That's going to keep the blood pressure down. It's got plenty of fiber, about 3 grams of fiber, which is good. That will keep your blood pressure down. And it's got, you know, vitamin C, vitamin A from the onions and peppers. And it's just really a decent meal as far as nutrients and fiber goes. So, and we've got protein and everything. So that's the nutritionals. I'm gonna wipe this down because the grits are popping all over the place. And I don't want them to burn. All right. Stir your shrimp. They're probably cooked on one side by now, and we're gonna let them cook on the other side. I'm gonna turn my heat back up on the shrimp. Turn the grits down even more. And turn them down to 1 out of 10. Because they're still popping. Let me stir them. Hopefully that'll help. You can also put cheese in these grits. Gouda, smoked Gouda, cheddar, a sharp cheddar, something aged would be good. Just a little bit. Because we've got the shrimp and the peppers and the onions, I didn't think we needed the extra flavor of the cheese. But if you like cheese, like a lot of people do, you can definitely put cheese in these grits. That will make them delicious as well. But I tend to put cheese in my grits when I'm just eating grits by themselves. For those of you who don't like grits, like if you're from the north or something like that, 1, I'm sorry. 2, I'm kidding. The north is perfectly fine. 2, one thing you may consider is that if you've had like Waffle House grits, you haven't had good grits. So, oh, can I add some kick to the shrimp roux? I'm sorry, I didn't see this. Question. And yes, you can add cayenne, crushed red pepper would be good in this. Any number of spices that you think would be good, and that will increase your number of plants that you're eating. So I'm going to turn off my shrimp and turn off my grits because I think we're done here. But Waffle House grits are not stone ground grits cooked in cream, you know, so give these grits a try. And if you decide you still don't like them after trying these grits, then you don't like grits, and that's just fine. You can cook this, the shrimp gravy, you can cook it and put it on top of oatmeal. You can eat it by itself if you want. But oatmeal is good with the shrimp roux on top. The roux is the thickener. The gravy is the liquid part. Okay. So now I'm going to add some shrimp to the top. All right. Some extra vegetables on there. And this is our bowl of shrimp and grits. And I did say that you could serve it with fruit. So I prepared a plate of fruit here. Let me put my bowl of grits on there. But I've got some oranges, some plums, and a nectarine to eat with my bowl of shrimp and grits. I'm really excited to eat this. One thing you can do is taste the shrimp mixture and make sure there's enough salt in it. You can add a little bit of salt if you think you need more. Yes, so it's hard to find stone ground grits in local stores, and I'm not sure where you would find them where you are, but if you're in Atlanta, you can find them at the DeKalb County Farmers Market. That's where I got mine. Let me change the view. That's where I got my grits, was the DeKalb County Farmers Market. Another thing is to order them. Whole Foods a lot of times sells stone ground grits. If your gravy is not liquidy, if it's too thick for you, definitely add more beer or wine or stock. If it's not thick enough, then you can add flour, but it's gonna be raw flour and it's not gonna be the same. So if it's not thick enough, I would just try and eat it. But or you can make a roux in a separate pot, like add oil and flour and make a roux and then add that to your gravy to thicken it up instead of adding raw flour to your gravy, because we don't really want the taste of raw flour in our gravy. You can get stone ground grits at Trader Joe's. I went to the Trader Joe's where I am in Ohio, and they said it was discontinued. So I don't know if it's discontinued everywhere or just in Ohio or in the North or in the Midwest. I don't know. But apparently they weren't selling enough of it here. And that's probably because I hadn't made this video yet. So let's see, any other questions before I move on? So everything here is getting cold. So let's do a quick outro so we can eat and get on with our day. So today we made shrimp and grits, a hypertension friendly meal. It's low in sodium, but maxes out the flavor. And if you want to keep seeing recipes like this, hit the subscribe and the bell icon so that you'll be notified of the next videos. And keep checking eat-to-treat.org. That's where I post the recipes, and that's where you can find these video links. So I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.